Selected, you have done everything correctly, yet even so, life appears to stop. You pray, get prepared, make plans, search, but the advance never shows. One feels a fatigue not deserved, a standstill without any explanation. Something seems to be holding blessings on the other side of the curtain. Exactly, there is an unseen lock, a spiritual link needing to be severed. Although you are not at blame, it is your duty to break free. You try, but it appears the world returns quiet. Every item you create falls before your corporation. One nearly lived the promise, almost closed the door of the past, almost worked. This almost is a spiritual echo of something still with you, a broken link functioning as vibratory sabotage. Something always drags you back at last. And this is consent. It is not accident. Authorized by bonds you have not yet cut. This is why the doors do not open even with skill, preparation, and purpose. Your soul is still bound to pacts, persons, emotions, or memories heaven has previously requested to depart. And the new is insufficient while you are lugging these remnants. God does not drop an anointing about what is defiled. There are relationships that must die for the birth of the future. You look about and see individuals progressing, usually with less preparation, less depth, less agony, and wonder, why am I not flowing? As you are light, you nonetheless carry unseen currents. You arrive for failure late. It is late to be imprisoned, and life responds only when its vibration is split. Stagnation is not a lazy process. It is spiritual captivity dressed in ordinary wear. It's the exhaustion resulting from lugging what ought to have been abandoned. It's the weight of tales you haven't closed, grief you mute, of links you attempt to ignore but yet drag you within. And God, a parent, will not toss you into the new while you remain anchored to the old man. Sometimes all you need is not more effort, it's breaking. Since on the other side of a spiritual cut, benefits are waiting for you. And conscience starts this cut. It starts with the knowledge that still occupying the position of what God intends to express are people, words, emotions, locations, and pacts. Nothing flows because something is still bound, not outside but within. And the Spirit is guiding you today. It's not your fault, but it's your mission to break. The sky will stay locked as long as the loop persists. And the day you will have the bravery to cut will be the one everything starts to move on. Someone selected you to be free, and what drives you has your days counted. Selected, not every delay is from the adversary. Many originate from ties you have let yourself. Spiritual linkages are genuine currents in the unseen realm created by pacts, words, alliances, and strong emotions transcending time, not analogies. One day you believed it was just love, just friendship, just grief. Yet in the spirit world it became a bond. And when a connection exists, there is energy sharing, destination, weight. You have pledges you made without understanding what was sealing. Words said in moments of hopelessness, passionate pledges, alliances made in the middle of suffering. All of this is noted in the spirit realm as contracts. And what is not cancelled with authority stays active even if the individual has come out of his life. Even if years have gone by, the link holds when there was no spiritual closure. You have inheritances that belong not to you. Not born in you are the pains, curses, familial pacts, unresolved pain, spiritual scars carried on from those who came before. Delivered to you as a weight, what your forefathers did not heal, and you find yourself caught in the history of people you hardly know without even noticing it. Because blood carries history. The soul, memories as well. Ties develop not just among persons. They form with locations, with items, with experiences. A trauma endured in a setting might spiritually grab you to that frequency. Even after everything is finished, a sexual connection outside the spiritual covenant ties you to someone within. A connection formed on emotional reliance or suffering turns into a prison dressed in love. Institutions themselves may establish spiritual ties. Organizations, circles, movements where your soul has been damaged, distorted, or marked. The link does not respect geography. He is not depending on bodily presence. He merely needs an open emotional or spiritual conduit. And this tube keeps sucking its vitality if it is not shut with release. Every agreement created without sense is a means of spiritual prison, particularly those created in the midst of suffering, anxiety, deprivation. The opponent uses invisible contracts to advantage at these moments, and you unwittingly bind yourself to something you cannot explain later on why you are unable to abandon it. Even broken partnerships might. There are pains that you lived that no one has seen. You cried without audience. You fell to your knees in silence, and even without understanding, continued. This type of pain is not in vain. She forges the chosen ones. If this message spoke to your story, comments, this pain has purpose. Leave your prayer request in the comments, and if you can, pray for someone who is asking too. Here, there is no applause, but there is a presence. Subscribe, because here the pain becomes called, and the silence becomes a testimony. Still be alive in the spirit, since the bridge stays open without closing, and via this link comes uncertainty, fatigue, assaults, and unexplainable death. You consider it as just a phase of life. Still, something unresolved is draining the unseen in its invisible state. Every loop acts as a wire, an avenue, a psychic tunnel linking you to someone, anything, a moment to a suffering. And your energy will keep being split until this cable is severed. You will be in two places, the present and what ought to have passed away already. Break with what divides you. Tear what still holds you. Cancel what is no longer a covenant. It's prison, God says, wanting to lead you to the new. Since only the full spirit gets the complete plan. And even if you are spiritually connected to the past, constantly you will glimpse the future but never reachable. The bond needs to drop. The rope needs to snap. And previous pacts must have your name taken off so the pledge is honored. For heaven does not split inheritance with what originated from darkness. Selected. Your spirit has been screaming, but you have learned to ignore. Symptoms that transcend just bodily or emotional ones are spiritual ones. You consider it as a keepsake, that is desire, just sensitivity here. But what is occurring is active communication with something that ought to have closed previously. And the Spirit led you here to release the signals. Many times, perhaps accidentally, you consider someone from the past. Dreams, ideas, loose memories all return from this presence. It is still live spiritual cord. It is not nostalgia. You seem to be imprisoned at that moment in that connection, in that suffering. You are still being dragged there despite attempting to follow. Old feelings come up of nowhere. Sudden depression. Wrath without reason, anxiety devoid of a trigger. This comes from the effort of the link to consume your energy, not from your thoughts. Since relationships must be maintained if one wants to thrive, and as they start to wither, they tease, reawaken, disrupt. You live the same cycles among many different individuals, alters the environment and the face, yet the story remains the same. The letdown is felt once again. Frustration resurfaces. The abandonment turns itself around. This is unmistakable evidence that behind is a spiritual pattern working, and the loop you neglected preserves this pattern. Real is the experience of being watched, controlled, psychologically observed. Their access is illegal spiritually. Every day has been entrance into his soul. He is still seeking to connect. Still attempt to draw you back. And if you project no authority, this access becomes a gateway. Some names make you feel sick. Just listen or read. Your chest is tight. Sleep disappears. The mind starts racing. This is spiritual alert, not a weakness. Your body is responding to what your spirit has sought to overlook too long, and the body starts to speak as the soul is calling for assistance. Following some meetings, your enthusiasm falls. You feel confused, exhausted, empty, and you hardly know why either. They are unresolved relationships. Still active are the strings. Alliances you thought were dead were only inactive. And every interaction starts the vibratory cycle one again. You dream about individuals from the past that ought to be here. Events that have closed in the physical yet remain open in the soul. This is spiritual visitation, not just a dream. It is the link attempting to keep access, even if on the outside you have already changed the page. You know you should make certain choices, yet you find yourself unable of making them. Something seems to drag you back every time you attempt to break, like an unseen hand guiding you between what it was and what it should be. There is not fear involved here. It is spiritual prison in active state. At last, time passes. However, certain spheres of your existence do not walk, not change, do not flourish, and you immediately see something is off. Additionally, you have something that paralyzes you, trapped with, and nothing really fresh cannot blossom unless something is not detected and cut. These cues are God speaking to you, noting what still has links for you, for heaven wants to open your life. But first he must release you, and emancipation starts when you realize, this still holds me. Choose to pay close attention to the link that stops you from reaching the future instead of merely the past. Though your soul is still bound to frequencies that heaven cannot dwell, God has made readied plans and blessings with your name inscribed, doors with destination unlocked, and the promise stays on the other side, just waiting for your release as long as there is unseen current. The lace misaligns you. All of this changes your spiritual frequency. Old vibrations, stopped emotions, pacts unbroken. You may even be smiling outside, but inside it's struggling to continue. You have prayed, you have been silent, you have felt things that you don't know how to explain, and it has carried a loneliness that no one around you seems to realize. I understand, because many who are here also carry this. Comment here if that word spoke to you. Leave your prayer request, and if it's not yet part of the channel, you subscribe, because here you don't have to pretend you are well. Here, we feel together. And what was to honor your light, your voice, your anointing? You cannot identify yourself. You vibrate in a field that no longer relates to your call. What was meant to be yours gets away, not under curse but for incompatibility. God is interested in doing fresh. How therefore should the fresh be released if the elderly guy still occupies space? Although you are linked with what should have already have departed, what comes from above cannot descend. The pledge does not encircle the jail. And this is why you feel as if nothing changes, even in prayer or even in fasting. Because certain emotions still lock your area of soul. The link keeps the spiritual doors locked as it functions as a lock. Frozen emotions, not given pains, concealed emotional dependencies. Everything becomes crucial in the wrong hands. The opponent utilizes these leftovers to stop you from further progress. You just have to keep the relationship alive, even in silence, not really accomplish anything. More importantly, legality follows from a connection. Every unambiguous agreement functions as an open contract. And even if you have forgotten, the spirit world honors contracts. What you have not cancelled stays active. And when engaged, forces outside of God will have access to your thinking, your energy, your methods. The selected project calls for simplicity, but the loop waits, draws, savota. It slows down the road, increases the deeper exhaustion, and causes more continuous uncertainty. Though you don't know why, you feel locked. It is because it still bears in the shoulders agreement that heaven never penned. God does not send whole destination in polluted hands. He looks for atonement. He anticipates renunciation, since everything he sends is sacred, and the Spirit withdraws when there are still dirty partnerships. The promise only shows up when the root is ripped out. First comes liberation, next comes multiplication. Your connections are known to the adversary and makes use of them. It comes back using recognizable faces, faint recollections, emotional transgressions. He is aware of your not closing the door yet, and he walks in at there, not with violence but with recommendations. Delayed, weary. You mistrust even what God has previously shown you because of mental misunderstanding. And the date? Time struggles. You feel late as the days go by. That was meant to have gone further. That should already be at yet another level. And it is correct. But the period of obedience will be delayed even if your spirit is split with what God has already finished. The field is active, and the promise does not land on seized territory. One experiences delay when there is a loop. There is sorrow when there is delay. One becomes frustrated where one is suffering. But today the Spirit informs you, this is breakable. This cuts easily. One may cancel this by annulling, with spiritual choice, not with human might. The pledge still holds true. But now it is you who must arrange himself to live what God has already delivered. Though chosen breaking is required, the real struggle is staying free. The spirit realm is continually moving, and where light exists, efforts at a new prison will occur. The opponent never gets bored in attempting. Now you know where to step. And to know the chosen one is to guard oneself sensibly. God thus imparts not only cutting but also shielding lessons. To stay apart, walking behind invisible barriers over which no ties may pass. Fast emotionally. Leave everything that becomes emotionally inebriated before you prove you spiritually. Since many relationships develop in necessity and flow like currents. Try not to give those who hear you well instant allegiance. Try not to mistake purpose with relaxation. Before being accepted in the soul, anything that touches your feeling has to be evaluated in prayer. Get ready before you open it. Conversations too have to travel through the heavens. Not every embrace provides protection. Therefore, not all counsel is like medicine. Bonds develop in seconds, with words, with suffering, with non-dissonized empathy. You have been sent to love, but not to be all-loving. Pay attention to your physical condition. The soul of the selected one alerts before the intellect can grasp. Not to be overlooked is a shiver, a sudden headache, a weight in the chest close to someone. They are warnings from the soul. These are codes of your soul alerting you. This place, this person, this bond are not for you. Watch who you lay down with. Share secrets or sufferings. The intimate belongs in holy respect. On altar is furthermore people who reject what you convey cannot defile the altar. Ties start in the unseen. They may become gateways from the touch, the deep talk, the ill-timed outburst. Daily reinforcement of your spiritual shields. Psalms at sunrise, mantras on alignment. Dedicated water in. There's something that moves inside you when you hear certain words. It's not emotional. It is not psychological. It is spiritual. It's like you've heard it before, even if you don't understand how. The Spirit recognizes what the mind is still trying to rationalize. If this touched you, comments down here. I recognize. And if you want, ask prayer. Someone will pray for you. And if you haven't signed up yet, this may be the time to accept that the call has already begun and that you are not here by chance. Surroundings. Words of affirmations that define their individuality. The selected is everyday, continuous, holy, and needs preservation. Those who safeguard themselves from past mistakes won't have to rush later. Apply consecrated symbols, stones, bracelets, necklaces, things having more than simply beauty but also great prayer burden. Every symbol has to be used deliberately. Evil knows what was split apart. and it doesn't affect the sealed person. Analyze yourself personally. See whose energy you descend to. After certain meetings, note what you find yourself nodding off. Not every affinity is a gift. People that suck without knowing exist. Talks that deviate from your core turn off you. And you came to observe even the emotions. Steer clear of pattern repetition. Though not innovative, the adversary is imaginative. He tests fresh bonds behind old disguises. If you already suffer from need, be careful of people who promise lap. Should you already be tied for compliments, be wary of individuals who just praise you. What appears fresh might be the old one attempting to go back with different attire. There is no theological requirement around empathy. Helping is heavenly. Nevertheless, connecting without awareness may be hazardous. You have not been asked to carry everyone. Every weight is not a mission. Also, not every pore is innocent. There are bonds of sympathy that later on become invisible shackles. Maintaining your frequency high will help. Bond does not enter when there is always God present. The soul pulsating in light rejects strong bonds. Thus, develop your spirituality as those who tend to your own independence. Evil cannot bound those living in harmony with the top. Selected, free is a daily decision. Taking care of oneself is a loving deed toward your objective. And don't go back since you have been liberated. You cannot now access land. You are territory dedicated for consecration. Selected, what God gave you was not lost. Stopped, was it? Not sure when the cut is scheduled. Awaiting your release from the unseen cords keeping you from moving gently. The mission has never been cancelled, just postponed till your hands were clean and your soul unbound. And the call once again pulsates since the loop has collapsed. Enhanced, simpler, more crucial. Again the heavens murmur, now yes, proceed, and you feel, in the body, inside the heart, with time. Once shut out starts to come free. The concepts resurface, the wills return. The doors that formerly refused to open opened organically, because the field is tidy, and mobility follows when there is cleanliness. The vision lines itself after the split, it as if the curtain dropped, like if a cloud covering his awareness at last vanished. You know what you missed now. You understand now what previously baffled you. The aircraft fragments start to fit, the directions return, and you are back in line with intention. At last, the gift that escaped notice shows itself. Years of waiting for what you had been waiting for and you never knew why the delay, now arrives with speed. Since the area was free from clutter, the sky anticipates. It takes little time. Hold off until the cut comes. Wait until adulthood. Hold out for emancipation. And the selected liberated is unstoppable. You now lack dread without shackles. Has power while speaking, clearly felt, and radiates a brightness derived from above. Since the weight dropped, because behind what sucked was behind, because the goal is clean now, cleaned, and it lends you spiritual speed. You start to spot the indicators, those that ran you in the past. Places that ill people visit cease drawing in you. Roads link, time fixes itself. That which seems lost comes back. God specializes in restoring time to the selected one who had the bravery to challenge what was crippling him. And suddenly another force shows up. Not haughtiness, this is what is. It is strong, a confidence free from approval or acclaim. You just know you are on the correct path. And that conviction, it cannot come from outside, come from inside. Reflects the spirit. Fresh relationships develop, cooperation consistent with your goals. Those who contribute instead of sucking. You will be driven, not pulled. God trades bonds that damage the constructions she creates. Because the selected freed turns becomes a conduit for others. Your new vibration also attracts what resonates at the same level. It used to hurt. Now it becomes evidence. History recounted with authority now forms the chain that imprisoned you. You begin teaching others as well. to set deliverances on active, cutting currents that one day almost brought me death, because who has been released bears free anointing, and your coming back is not just for you, it is for others still under ties, and that will come loose when you say, with truth and power, I've been. There are pains that you lived that no one has seen. You cried without audience. You fell to your knees in silence, and even without understanding, continued. This type of pain is not in vain. She forges the chosen ones. If this message spoke to your story, comments, this pain has purpose. Leave your prayer request in the comments, and if you can, pray for someone who is asking too. Here, there is no applause, but there is a presence. Subscribe, because here the pain becomes called, and the silence becomes a testimony. Arrested, but now I walk. Chosen, there comes a holy moment when the Spirit understands it's over. Not because someone informed you, not because time has gone, but because within you something aligned, closed, burst free. A key spun in the unseen and permanently shut the door that once lived. And you feel when it occurs, in the physical world, soul-wise, in quiet. The name that before your winding touches no more. Once producing suffering, the memory passes like wind without direction. Over you, the link has lost spiritual potency. At a distance, what really accomplished you? There is nothing to hang to, because your soul is pure. Since the field closed, because you got up, signs show up. In the body, in fantasies, in daily life. You slumber in harmony. The heart slows down. Vision of liberation seems to be doors shutting, shackles shattering, tunnels collapsing. There are no coincidences about them. These are validations. The spirit world honors silently what you have gained in tears. The cycle concludes then as well. You are unquestionably right. I seldom stay long, not wait at all. One may imagine a window locked from inside. You no longer have part of you in that location, in that person, in that agreement. You returned in full. The fragmentation is finished. The soul assembled itself. The spirit was back in action. God closes peacefully, a peace independent of reasons or responses, a tranquility that muffle the past, which turns faraway murmurs from past cries. And you understand, what you dragged you now doesn't move you. What formerly kept you down now does not find you. Once it broke you, lost access, you will once again sense your own owner. Whole is the result, and all of it begins to line up. Little items that in past times were inappropriate for personal organization. Easy chores once again flow naturally. Since the internal surroundings underwent reorganization, the condition originated in torn. The field is really rich right now, and even when someone refers to the name, the face, the scenario, nothing in you responds. Not want, nor hate, nor fear. Just quiet here, just cautious, just light. Since the spiritual bonds were severed, at last you return to you, toward your axis, regarding your call. The clarity dawns. You also find what you missed. That was not passion. It had no goal. It had not been divine connection. It turned out to be a loop, and now the link is dead. The entrance closed. The pact was called off in the spirit realm, and within you is a quiet, strong, celestial voice telling, chosen, there are things heaven lets you suffer just for hell to be compelled to see your emancipation. Now you are free. Now you may walk. The same eyes who praised your imprisonment will now follow your march. The same spirits that helped you to get arrested now summer you saw. For none to a selected one set free by the Spirit of the living God. Your triumph won't be subtle. It will be a live reply. God will make a point of revealing the light you had choked out. They will see you flourish. They will witness you blossom on the same ground they attempted to hide their core on. Evil sought to wipe you. All you received was to highlight you even more. Those who have cast links to you have words want stagnation, will witness you break, ascend, traverse territory you never thought. because the selected is clearly liberated. It is splendor instead of theater, and splendor shows up. It does not conceal. There will be spiritual justice satisfied, not in want of retribution, but with discovery. God will reveal you who you are for those who simply saw your suffering. Though the relationship was destroyed, standing had a function. And now time starts to follow your anointing as nothing else keeps you. You were separated. You were not locked. In a position, prepared. The relationship was a journey, not an end. The knot spun portal-wise. The suffering became to be strength. And what was jail became as impulse. Walk, because your time has come, the Spirit says now. And this time is not only walking, it is meant to be governed. What was a site of defeat now the scene of authority? Hell sought to silence his voice and unintentionally reinforced his message. They attempted to conceal you, but they ended up turning on the light nobody else would turn off. You soared after evil pushed you. Chosen that breaks does not go back to the floor. He stands up. It widens. He walks in areas he used to crawl in. And every stride you take now sounds the sound of the breaking shackles, the sound of hell realizing it fell short. Where you are stepping now, shackles shatter. Prison shudders where you speak. The skies open where you pray. It carries itself because the power of which it was liberated is not taught. The spirit world also knows who will win, then trembles before it was bleeding, but it arrived alive. Every tear you shed throughout the loop's period has turned into fuel for the endeavor. Though you will be born in the light, you have been fashioned in the darkness. And what you sought to kill you now would see you rule. What bare you? You now perceive yourself free. What wounded you? You are standing now. And what laughed at you from waiting would be quiet before your approach. The heavens are indicating, this is my chosen.